My name's Alec. I'm Vice President, and this is actually my first talk in a while. So tonight we're going to be talking about window managers. To understand exactly what a window manager is, I'm going to explain that all ties into your graphical user interface and fitting in with how many choices you have on your Linux-based operating system. There are several types of window managers, and because there's so many, I'm just going to cover two main ones, i3 and Openbox. And if there's any other ones, novelty ones you want to cover, we will definitely cover those. But to understand what a window manager is, we need to understand like how that all connects. Well, first off, I mean, so your modern operating system has a graphical user interface, because otherwise, like, your grandmother probably couldn't use the computer very easily. So, so in Linux, ever since around about mid-80s, over at MIT, the software called the X window system was developed, and what the X window system is, I'll explain. So let's say so the X window system, there's the X server, and that gives out to, it's a server client model. So when you start up your computer, you could just go straight to a TTY, right? And you could go right into a shell. Before you go into the shell, your computer might start up the X server. And here's your X server right here. And so basically, the X server gives out sessions that you can connect you can graphically connect, like, interface with the system. Basically, the X server will the X server interfaces with all these hardware components, like your mouse and keyboard, and well, that goes with the kernel, of course. Just have the kernel be this giant box, and so you'll input things through here to the X server, and things get pushed out through the X server as well, like to the screen. In order to connect to the X server, you need some kind of client, because like I said, this is the server. So you need a X client, and the client would be some kind of way to, like, manage all your applications on the screen. And a window manager is the most basic way to manage the graphical layout of your screen. So what would happen is at startup, the X server would start up, and then when a user logs in, they start up their window manager. And we'll do, technically it's the client, isn't it? And so basically, in fact, I really should just move this stuff around. And so, yeah. So now you have a client to that can, like, now that you've connected to the X server, you can efficiently, you have privileges from the operating system to use the, like, all the graphical drivers and stuff like that, like all the graphics cards and stuff. And so that's the basic layout of the client. So like I said, so the most basic kind of client is a window manager. And window manager just explains how all your windows are just laid out on the screen. So we're all familiar with the Windows operating system, a little bit at least. So when you start up your Windows computer, you'll this is basically it's all bundled in one. Also, I don't even know what I'm talking about this too much. I'm sorry.
Well, how about in Linux? What are some examples of window managers?
Yeah, I should probably jump right to that. Okay, so basically the window manager is a client that communicates with the X server. The X server accesses the computer's graphical resources, and then the client takes advantage of those. And the user can use the mouse and keyboard or other input devices to interface with the window manager, and that stuff gets spit out on the screen. You know, that's actually really interesting because, I mean, this is just one box, right? This is just one operating system. Well, I mean, if you have another computer somewhere else with its own window manager, right? That can connect over the network and communicate with an X server on like a server of some sort. In fact, I believe that's how all these computers in this lab do. They connect to the main hub, and they ask the X server, probably in that room, hey, can you give me a client? And it brings up the window manager. Like I said, a window manager is just a way to organize all your applications on one screen. You probably heard the term desktop environment. Well, desktop environment is a step further. In addition to a window manager, a desktop environment also has applications that ties well with the window manager. So probably the best example I can think of is GNOME. GNOME is a desktop environment, and I cannot remember the window manager they use, but they have, I mean, I can name a whole bunch of applications off the top of my head, like the GNOME terminal, and they got display servers, and there are some specific optimized, I don't know, I don't use GNOME too much. Can people give me examples of GNOME specific applications?
GNOME specific, Nautilus for their
Nautilus is a great one.
browser.
GNOME Calc.
Yeah.
GNOME Calc, yeah.
I have GNOME. Is there an image viewer?
Gedit? Yeah, Gedit. would be
Gedit.
one.
How could I forget Gedit? And you see, these are in a desktop environment. All these applications are specifically optimized to work with the window manager. So desktop environments are very popular in the Linux world. Cinnamon is a desktop
I think they use
environment.
Openbox though, don't they?
I believe they do use Openbox. I think so. Yeah. So so like Cinnamon uses window manager as their Openbox is their window manager, and they have a whole bunch of bundled applications. But if you want to go a step further, if you want to escape the desktop environment world, you can make your install a lot more flexible to meet your needs, because the desktop environment is just it just works right out of the box. But if you want to do some more fancy stuff, like stuff I've done maybe, you wouldn't need to install a desktop environment. All you would need is the X server and the window manager, and then from there you can execute your own things. Are there any questions on what the window manager is? I was kind of butchered a bit, but
That was a good explanation.
good explanation? Okay, that's good then. All right. Well, okay. So, like I said, there's several window managers out there, and I'm going to talk about two different window managers specifically. Openbox and i3. Anyone familiar with Openbox? I'm sure. It's to explain. Oh, yeah. All this forms up again. By the way, there's two things about Openbox and i3 that's important to know. They both they organize their windows differently. Actually, they manage windows differently. Openbox and i3. Openbox is known as a floating window manager, while i3 is a tiling. Two very popular operating systems, Mac and Windows, use the floating type window. They use their own built-in window managers into their operating system. And basically what a floating window manager does is it treats all their windows as just things that float on the desktop. Think of it like you have your desk, and you might have a piece of paper. Each piece of paper is just a floating window. And a tiling window manager like i3, these stuff are more popular in the Linux world, especially with programmers. You have a screen, or maybe your desk, right? Here's your desk. Here's just the top of your desk. And instead of having floating pieces of paper like this, though, tiling window managers will automatically fit it to fill the entire screen. So if you have one open, you just have one application open, it'll fill the entire screen, but if you have a second one open, the window manager will automatically make it so they're side by side, or maybe up and down, do a bunch of fancy things.
It's back like Windows 3.1.
Yeah, right? Do they do that? Okay, I don't follow that.
Windows used to.
Oh, they used to?
In Windows 3.1.
Before
Well,
networking existed.
Is it a little bit like what's the
And they take it from Xerox, but
what's the terminal that Chase really liked?
Terminator.
Terminator.
Yes.
Doesn't that do tiling?
exactly.
Yep.
Oh.
Can you give me an example on where a tiling window manager would be a bad idea? Like, what kind of applications would you not want to run in a tiling window manager? Right off the top of my head, I'm thinking image manipulation programs, like GIMP, because otherwise you'll have all your toolbars like stretched across the entire screen. So that would be.
I would say games too.
Games is also very awful for tiling window managers, because then you'll. I have experience with it, but usually some more modern tiling window managers will have an option to toggle a window between floating and tiling. And actually i3 does that. i3 is my favorite tiling window manager.
Is it also true that some floating window managers also have tiling abilities?
That is true. And I will probably cover that. Like, can you give me an example of one?
Like, I've seen Windows tile stuff in the new Windows 7 and
Dude,
8.
That's true.
They have the ability to auto-fit, maybe not by default when you launch two programs, but if you move them around in some special magical way, they'll
Oh,
I
right.
was gonna say that.
I disable that.
And Ubuntu Unity does the same.
Right.
Yeah.
There used to be an
Right,
extension
after
for
the hot
GNOME called
band.
G-Tile,
Uh-huh.
and you would set it up in however X by X grid on your system you would want, and then you could fit your windows. You would I want to cover a 3x2 grid, and it would snap that window to 3x2.
I'm not saying floating and tiling are mutually exclusive.
Right.
That is absolutely wrong. But I mean, there are different ways
It's
to
more
work
of an
things.
approach.
It is absolutely an approach. Like for programmers, for example, I think tiling is a great idea because you can have your editors and man pages all on one screen in a nice way. So this is my desktop, but we're not going to spend any time here. This uses i3. So we're going to jump right to Openbox.
I was gonna say in Windows you can't really have more than 2 open tiles with the tiling method. Because when I was in
yes.
Windows 8, it would only have 2. You can't put like 2 on this side and then 1 over here.
Yeah, it's not that advanced.
Windows,
but-
Windows still hasn't cottoned on to the idea of workspaces yet.
What, didn't they just
Actually,
implement
Have they implemented that
I
in
think
Windows
they
10?
just did.
Okay.
Now everyone's
It's only
crazy
taken
and
them
they
10 years
have
later, doesn't it?
Okay, so like I explained, you can have one X server, but multiple clients. So I'm actually running 3 clients right now. One is my own, and I have another Openbox window manager running, and another i3 one, which we'll mess with. So basically, what I'm going to do after this point, I'm going to go over Openbox, look at some config files, go over i3, look over some config files, and then if there's any other window managers you want to explore, I can really quickly grab those and we can walk through those together. Because honestly, again, there are so many software choices out there for window managers, and it's quite phenomenal. All right, well, I'm going to switch over to Openbox. So as you can see, this is a default install on my Openbox install on Slackware. At first glance, there's nothing, but with Openbox, there's no bar per se, by default, unless you add other software to do it. When you right-click, you get your menu of everything. So, so basically, you have your pop-up menu, and there might be applications that you might want to add. Downside about Openbox is that I don't know if the script's out there, but you have to manually configure certain menu items. which can be a pain, but you can also do some pretty creative things, as I will show here soon.
Is this your main system?
No, like I said, I have.
I was like, I never knew you were a minimalist.
No, no. I'm not that crazy. No, I use IP for a main thing.
I like how it's become not that crazy.
It's not that crazy. No. So I'm gonna explain how you would configure Openbox normally. There's nothing in this home directory. Well, there actually is. When you install Openbox, your default config files will be under .config and then Openbox. And so under there, you're going to see several files. There's really only two you should ever really mess with. There's menu and RC. So menu is exactly as describes that pop-up menu I showed you. And RC is actually key bindings, and we'll get to that soon. That's another cool thing that Openbox supports, key bindings. So if you have certain shortcuts you really like, you can easily implement those. We're going to open up menu and see all the things we have right now. Well, it is a floating window manager, so it is very easy just to resize things like that. This is too big. Let's close this and get a different term. Is that, would you rather have it like
That's
that?
fine.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I did not configure that right.
That one probably could be bigger.
Yeah, I'll just stick with next term.
That actually shows up really well.
Okay, that's good then. Oh, I guess we can click down here. Alright, that's good. Alright, well, as you can see here, maybe under my internet tab I have Firefox, Pigeon, Instant Messenger, and XChat. So maybe I want to put this under a separate subfolder. So Openbox, all their config file, their menu config file uses an XML, kind of an XML-like configuration. So it's very easy to make nested menus. So as you can see, I have Pigeon and XChat here, and maybe I want to put them all in one folder called IM. So it's pretty easy to make. We'll just make a new menu. We'll call it IM. And the label will be what you see when you right click on things.
Oh, I see you just put it in there.
What's that?
When you put it in that bracket.
Yeah, so I want to nest it under a new, I want to nest it, because right now, I open my internet tab and I have 3 different programs, right? But instead, what I want to do is just have Firefox and then a separate IM folder. And then under there, we'll have Pigeon and XChat. So you can do that with Openbox. I'm just going to do a quick demonstration about that. Just close the tab up.
Yeah, you can make that happen, right?
Give me enough money.
I give up tonight.
So what we need is a piece of glass with some
Oh, I see. Now I am there.
Yeah, except, oh, I didn't do that right, did I? It seems that it kind of nested itself a bit. Oh, you know what, did I close the tab off correctly? I feel like I didn't. Oh, I lost myself here.
Down. There you go.
Right. Oh, okay, I forgot to put the extra tag on. That's important. And under system, on default installs, you'll have to reconfigure your Openbox thing, and that'll just reload the changes.
It's pretty good.
So now I have both applications under one folder. So it's not like I think a good example is on your standard Windows system, the start menu just reads everything from a folder. And while that's okay, I mean, you can do a lot more flexible things doing this. For example, maybe I want to add another cool item under, where do I want to add it? Under file managers. I actually emptied that one. I lost it. Okay. So honestly, I don't like doing R or stuff too much. I use something called Ranger. It is an N-curses based file manager. It's pretty cool. So I'm gonna make it so that I add a new entry for Ranger under here. So we'll add an item with the label Ranger. And action, if you want just to root the program, you gotta say it's gonna execute. That's just how the XML file goes. And then the command, in this command thing is, you put some kind of shell command. And that runs under your default shell. So for example, like up here for multimedia, you just type GM player in your terminal, it would do the exact same thing as clicking on the menu.
Okay.
So in that case, we want to do Ranger, but not really, because Ranger requires a terminal session to be open. So we're going to have it boot your XVT, and using the -e command, -e argument, we'll have your XVT open and then immediately run Ranger. I'm not going to use these. With these WM classes and stuff, you can do more fancy stuff with compositing window, like compositors, which I'll probably touch on really briefly at the end of the session. Like compositors, I'll talk about that later. I don't want to get too off topic here.
What is URXB, whatever?
What's that?
Is that just a virtual terminal or something?
Oh, okay, yeah, so URXVT is RXVT Unicode. That's just a terminal.
Okay.
Kind of like Terminator or Xterminator.
Perfect.
It's actually my choice, but I did not edit my X resources file to make it look nice, which I will also have to cover the X resources very soon too. Well, let's use URXVT. As you can see, when I right-clicked on that, it opened the Ranger file manager right in my home directory. As you can see, there's nothing. But if you know your way around the file manager, of course, you can do everything like you usually can. You can browse that. Maybe even open up the file again. Oh, it thinks that it's using the NF. Well, as you can see, I have opened up the thing again. So that's pretty cool. And again, there's no limit to kinds of things. Like again, it's just a bash shell. It just executes that straight. So if I wanted to, I can add one more menu. So down here, you need to include this root menu thing, because without the root menu ID, it will not print the menu at all, which is very important. Because if you don't have a menu, then you have completely thrown the advantage of Openbox out. So let's add one quick called just apps miscellaneous. And we'll add a new menu up here. And order doesn't really matter too much. The order down the root menu is what matters. Up here you can do it in whatever order. Yeah. I think I got that right. And I'm going to run one of my favorite programs of all time. So I'm debating. I'm going to do this one. And oh wait, hold on. Yep, that's it. We're going to execute it. Command will be C matrix. I'm going to change this bit. Enter the matrix. Alright, so I want to go to a different workspace for this. That's another thing that i3 and like I said, so window managers manage how your windows can go on the screen. A lot of modern window managers have something called workspaces. It's basically just different places where you can put your windows. So I'm going to go to a different workspace using a key binding, and we'll get to key bindings after this demonstration. But I'm going to reload Openbox, and I'm going to go to miscellaneous, and I'm going to enter the matrix. Oh, I forgot one. This runs in a terminal. We'll just do that. And there we go.
That's awesome.
So this is just one example of several of the powerful things you can do with just items. Like you can have it run scripts. Like you could possibly have it so you could have a tab just called scripts. Maybe you have an option that says backup, like upload my, like make a snapshot of my drive or something. You can upload that stuff immediately, which is good if you're pictures. You just want to upload your server really quick. You can do a whole bunch of cool things, or maybe you want to grab like an RSS feed. You can put all that stuff there. You can make a call script, like a bash script you have somewhere on your hard drive. It's really cool stuff. But maybe you're not too much of a graphical guy, like as in maybe you're more of a keyboard guy, is what I should say. And so in that case, if you don't like using the menu too much, honestly, I'm not a big menu fan. We can go over to. We're going to look at rc.xml. So as I said, rc.xml is the other file, and this is used for a whole bunch of other things. So basically this is just general miscellaneous configuration options. And honestly, you should mess with most of them here. The only thing you should mess in RC with is key bindings. So I'm going to go find that quick. If I can remember where it is.
Boots on the right there.
Oh, did I do it already? Ah, here we go. Okay, so here in the XML file in RC, there's a keyboard tag. And these keep track of all your key bindings. So as you can see, these two right here, for example, switch between workspaces, between left and right. And that's the control. And in this specific file, control, C is control, A is alt or mod. And again, different window managers have different ways of expressing modifier keys. Openbox uses it with a capital A. And these are all the built-in ones. You can remove them if you want to. Honestly, they're pretty useful. Like for example, Shift Alt right. I can send with that. I can send this this window to the desktop on the right. Ooh, I lost it. Never mind. Okay, so as you can see now, it's on desktop too. So all those things. But again, that stuff's built in.
Just to be wary of key bindings, because in certain Windows managers it uses things like S to mean shift, and in others it uses F to mean super key, which is also known as the Windows key.
Right. So you gotta read the documentation and that kind of stuff.
I reconfigured our faculty server so that Shift T brought up a terminal. So every time the faculty member would try and type something, the terminal would keep popping up over and over and over because they keep using Shift T instead of window key T.
Yeah, Ben brings up a good point. That W, in Openbox, a W means super key.
You did that accidentally.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's two ways a window manager will refer to the Windows key. They'll either call it the Windows key, which is very rare, or use the term super key, which is basically calling the Windows key without the proprietary label.
But here it's called Windows key.
Yes.
W.
It is called Windows key. They acknowledge it.
Not S.
So we can actually add our own key bindings. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't know. These are all these actions right here. We'll just we want to execute. Looks like there's already a built-in one for Conqueror, which I actually don't have installed. So let's make one for Firefox.
I want one to launch the Matrix thing. Do that instead.
You know what? Let's do that. Let's absolutely do that.
It's like Super Key M or something.
Super key and all right. I don't. We're gonna search our config files, see if that's already used, and it looks like it's not.
What's
So
a super key?
super key. So
It's basically
Windows key.
the super key is basically another thing to call the Windows key.
Sometimes
they call it a meta key too.
Yeah, that's another thing.
And so you specify that by capital W?
In Openbox, it is specified by capital W. Yes.
How would you do it if it was shift or something like that?
For Openbox, just capital S. Again, different.
I see. Read the documentation.
Read the documentation. Read the manual. All right, so a static key binding for the matrix here. I'm gonna execute. You have to do execute because that just calls the system shell. As you can see with these other key bindings, they do other things. And that stuff's all specified in the documentation to do actual stuff inside the window manager, like switch between workspaces and stuff. But just execute something from the shell. And that stuff's for like if you have startup applications, but that's not something I do, so I'm not going to worry about it. We'll run our command, bring up. Actually, you know what would be better, because I don't have this key binding yet. I cannot remember the enter key for Openbox. We'll just do T.
The enter key.
Yeah, I just want to do this for future things. Because we'll need it. So this is Control-Shift-T. So I'm getting sidetracked in the matrix thing, but maybe I want Control-Shift-T to open a terminal. This is ugly. I'll do that real quick. Reload Openbox. And Control-Shift-Key brings up Xterm. Although, oh, hold on. We've been using UXterm. And it's bringing up that formatting. Oh, there we go. Those are really useful. And again, we can do matrix.
What is T on the keyboard?
So, okay.
Is it the letter T?
Yeah, it's the letter
okay.
T. So, yeah, in the Openbox, in the Openbox RC file, lowercase letters means that key on the keyboard. And those capital ones are special. Like, capital W means the Windows or super key, and
Okay.
capital C, control. Again, it's not all for that kind of stuff with your window manager. You gotta read the documentation. Openbox is really well documented and that kind of stuff. I agree. Probably could do a bit better than that.
The other thing, if you don't mind me, whilst you're typing, just mentioning, all of the stuff that you're configuring is user profile based.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you're going to touch on that, but there are global commands that you can build in, but it's within the /etc, and only root can make those changes.
Correct. In fact, usually if you install your stuff on Debian, for example, when you install Openbox, that's all going to be installed under /etc. If you want window managers to be on a user-by-user basis, you got to copy the config files to your home directory. And from what I understand, the home directory config files will override whatever in
They will.
whatever in etc. For most window managers, Openbox does that. i3 does the two I'm covering today. So that is something you can do. You can have several personalized setups for several people connecting to one X server. That's the power of the client-server model.
It also means it's a real pain in the ass for sysadmins because it's very hard once something's been established to change it for all users within these config files.
So this is just Openbox?
Yeah, this
like
is just
plain old Openbox?
This is just plain old Openbox. This
Okay.
is just a clean install I had.
Okay.
And this is what Crunchbang did for you, was to set all of this stuff up.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of, what's the term? I really do tedious work for some reason, because I get joy or pleasure from that. So,
That's a kiss.
I mean, I actually, okay. What do you get me?
Here you go, Joel. Here's your commitment.
Just to reward ourselves for actually making something useful earlier.
Oh, you do Windows M, so you see you opened it, and if you hold it down multiple times, you can make it.
Oh, yeah!
That is actually like, my
That's
computer's
awesome.
not handling that.
Yeah, stutter open.
He doesn't like that.
So, cool thing about Openbox, the default close window thing is actually Alt F4. So again, it is very friendly for people moving over from Windows.
Can you make that your screensaver?
I don't know. I've never looked into. That's a good
put
point.
it on a
We're gonna
timer
talk about
and
background.
detect
Actually, that'd be kind of
non-activity.
cool to make it as, instead of a picture, be the desktop, the background, to have actually commands rolling on the
Yeah,
background
that'd be really
screen.
cool.
I don't know how to do that. There's probably a way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably
just keep
noticing.
the window open and then do other things.
So you've probably noticed this is a very, very bare background. There is no background, and that's something. Again, so as I said, this is just a window manager.
Somebody could get claustrophobic with this.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, this is just a window manager. This will only manage your windows. It will not manage your desktop background.
Okay, so you can't put one on there.
Well, you can't use your window manager to do it, but you can use other commands to do it. Usually you get a desktop environment to configure that stuff, but if you're just going to use a window manager, oh crap, what was the command? There we go. Okay, so there's certain programs that will make your background of your X client to something. One of those commands is fed. It's an image viewer. I don't have any pictures either. Let's go look for one. First, let's go Google Firefox.
Find a picture.
Find a picture.
Chase usually has some good ones.
What does?
Chase usually has some good ones.
Chase, what should I get?
I used to go with
Free one.
fractals.
Go what?
Fractals are good. Look at fractals.
Yeah, go to
I always used to do
fractals.
fractals.
Super cool frac.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. This one's really cool.
Looks like a fractal petri dish.
Sure, let's just save this under my home directory. I found my desktop. That's another thing. So, there's a default desktop folder, but Openbox does not render the contents of your desktop folder actually on your desktop, which is someone moving from Windows is a very foreign concept. In fact, let's go back to my setup. Because I had nothing on here, I can forget how much crap I actually put on oops, I don't want to exit that, please. I forget all the things I had in my desktop folder. Yeah, there's a lot of things here. So that's another thing. It allows me to be very unorganized while not looking very unorganized. Let's go back to where we were. Alright, let's save this under desktop.
Wait, can you get to it?
Yep, so we saved it. And I'll do another workspace. So we can use fed to actually load this stuff. Kind of ignore that stuff. If I remember correctly, fed will. Oh, come on, please. No, I thought I had something. I think BG scales the argument we use. There we go. So now we have a very psychedelic background. And so, as you can see, I can use fed, put that in my bash RC file.
Does that slow down your computer any?
No, it just throws it on there.
Okay.
So as you can see, I had a command to set the background. And did we ever cover bash RC at all in our lectures? Have we done that at all?
We haven't, mate.
We haven't. Well, when you log into your shell, everyone knows what a shell is at this point. When you log into your shell, it executes for bash specifically. It executes this file called bash rc. And if I wanted to, I could make it so it sets the background on login. What was the name of that?
Does that leave that running in the background though to keep that picture open?
No, it just sets it. I don't know too much of the
Yeah,
specifics.
there's some technicalities there.
Yeah, I think it just talks to the X server directly at that
Sure.
point. Yeah, that's what Fed does. It talks to the X server saying, "Hey, can you get this client this background?" I don't know. I mean, again, the window manager has nothing to do with that, which is why if you don't want to do convoluted stuff to do that, a desktop environment's good for that. That's another thing. Window managers only manage windows. They might not have key bindings for your copy and paste commands. I don't think I have one set up on Openbox. Oh, no worries. We'll just move that over here again.
Rename.
Well, oh, here.
Middle click. If you,
Well, actually, we can make it so if you right click on the bar, you can do a whole bunch of things. Always on top.
in theory, you should be able to still middle click and drop it in.
Middle click?
If you select text and then middle click,
Oh,
it
I forgot
should
about that.
drop straight through.
Oh, I'm done. Oops. My answer mode.
Yeah,
I just he's gonna type it out. Actually, I don't know if you've seen Ben, but my middle click button fell off.
I can't help you there.
That way, when we exit the X server and log back on, it should all be there still. So let's go ahead and log out, or exit. Log out in this case, just exit Openbox, and back on a TTY here. So let's start X again. Hold up, I need to do something. And so, uh-oh, well, that didn't work very well. Oh, wait, hold on. I know what you gotta do. Alright, so you know how I talked about bash RC, and that's executed on shell login. Well, should we make it so that Openbox starts on login too? So there's a nifty command for that. Oh, I can't see the bottom of the screen there. Yeah. So there's a nifty command for that. Built into the with an X server package. It's called startx.
If you just hit clear, it'll go to the top of the screen.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wow, I forgot about that. Again, I'm a very cluttered person.
There you go.
Let's just go here. So this command here, startx, executes a certain file in your home directory, or if there's none in the home directory, in your /etc directory called xinit.rc. And what I have right here is that emerges or XP sources file, which that's what I need to cover that later. Some backlight settings, and I commented some things out. We have it run Openbox. So what I want to do is
FET overriding anything here?
no. So basically, I'm just showing you what startx does. Startx executes this file. Does all these things. In fact, you actually want to
And
put
it looks
the,
like fair is already being run with a background.jpg.
Oh yeah, okay.
Two different users. He was demonstrating it on a different user.
Oh, okay, this
This
that
is
was
his normal user.
Yeah, so you see, I had to copy this from my home directory. But you know what? I mean, we could make it so.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, sorry. There we go. We do startx here.
Did you miss one?
I think you missed
Background's
one.
already there.
Missed an F.
Or maybe it's just it wasn't pulling
Was it
up.
cut? Okay.
So
Yeah, 'cause it looks like it's pulling up.
Yeah, and then you usually just put startx in your bash.rc file and it does all this magic for you. I'm going to cover one more thing in Openbox, but what's kind of it? I actually don't have a clock here, do I? Alright, well, I almost have.
It's 7 o'clock. You got now.
Okay, we'll be fine. So one more thing I'm going to cover on Openbox is they actually have, I mean, for people who don't like text files too much, remember how I said in the RCXML file that there's this whole bunch of junk you probably shouldn't touch except key bindings? Well, here's all that other junk. The Openbox Configuration Manager. From terminal, you execute it by typing obconf. Can you see that, guys? And if that's not installed in your system, you just use that with your package manager, install obconf. And it's actually really nice. You can install themes. If you just look up Openbox themes online, there's places you can download several themes. I really like orange, so we're gonna do orange, and everything's orange.
That's very orange.
Oh yeah, and you can using this little like very small documentation here, you can tell Openbox what I want up here. So I could have. Just have nothing in my body.
That's really helpful.
But then you don't have or if you have key bindings for minimize and maximize, and closing your window, all you could just have is that. Well, honestly, I should probably just put that back.
I like the fact it's called omnipresent for keeping on all desktops.
Yeah, so basically this is the button. Yeah, it just keeps it on all the desktops. So when I enable it, it's on all my desktops when I switch. It's a pretty cool feature. So what a cool thing is. And again, you can make those all key bindings. This is just for convenience if you just want to click on the bar and do those. So there's a very large amount of things you can do with that. You can change fonts. You have them installed. Well, I have installed them here. Where's the Wingdings one? I swear I had one installed.
Do people even use wingdings anymore?
I don't know.
There's other
It
things.
was a big thing for one in the
I
90s.
got my nice little cursive here.
Do a bowl, man. Get a bowl.
Very large.
It's very seasonal.
Well,
When I focus my window, it changes. That's what stuff.
It's obnoxious.
Oh yeah. That's,
well, it's
that's
because you've got inactive
Hey,
versus
did
active.
it mess with the X and the minimize?
Yeah, I think it messes up pretty well.
It improperly scales.
There's so many things right
Oh.
here. Change font size and make everything really small. If you really like playing pranks on your friends, you can screw up their stuff really, really bad. Through here you can add more workspaces, and you can even name them. On my old Debian computer, in an effort to keep organized, I had one workspace named Work, and another named like Music or something, and I actually never used the work workspace, so it was all kind of worthless. But I mean, there's not really a limit on how many you can add. Well, I guess there's
100.
but I mean, there's no limit.
No, you can't see them.
Well, actually, at that point, you gotta change the size of. What do you do for that one? I believe. Okay, so the size of the middle thing is actually dictated by themes. So if you want a larger one, you gotta look into any different theme.
Converting the
Make
theme.
it longer.
Oh yeah. You can do multiple monitors with Openbox. Most modern window managers do that. Honestly, i3 is a lot better with managing multiple monitor setups. We'll show that soon. And the dock is interesting. I haven't played around with this, but if you do want to dock, you would configure it here. Although you need an external binary to open that dock up. When I use something called LX Panel on my old laptop, and that was basically just a dock, and you could do a whole bunch of cool things with that. Well, as you can see, Openbox is very, I mean, when installed with the proper distribution, it is very friendly to people moving over from Windows. Again, this is really just a bare bones install of Openbox. If I just did that to showcase the several features and power that's behind Openbox. But again, since Linux is an environment of choice, I'm going to show you one other choice, i3. i3 is primarily a tiling window manager. I use i3 myself for a lot of things. We're gonna change this terminal to start off. But basically, as you can see, I just opened up a terminal. First thing i3 does is fill up the entire screen, which is pretty neat. I add another. They all go side by side. And if you know the key, if you set your own, there's some default key bindings, which I won't go into much depth on them too much, but you know the default key bindings, you can move those windows around. Maybe make it smaller a bit. Maybe you want these all to be like different windows here. Right?
But these could be different programs either.
They can be absolutely different programs to a GM player, for example. So it's, and as you can see, I don't know if you ever use GM player, but it actually launches two windows: the actual video output and the controls. So it treats them as two different windows. This is not
Better use for a floating.
This would not be a good. This would be a great thing for a floating window manager, but not something like this. But yeah, there's a lot of things. You can make them overlap like that. And if you're, for some reason, you're gonna throw the benefits of i3 out, you can make it floating again and drag that around. And change sizes and enter the matrix. So I've kind of run on i3. Since I don't have multiple monitors for the stream, I won't show the multiple monitor setup. But basically, down here you can have workspaces, and basically all you would do is focus your mouse on a different screen, and then say, hey, and using your key bindings, change to like workspace 2. And so then we switch between workspace 1 and 2, who switches monitors. Pretty cool stuff. But our i3 install looks pretty bare right now, so let's go ahead and look at some config files. Oh, as you can see, by the way, the background is still executed, even though we executed on the Openbox instance, because Fed, our image loader, told the X server to throw the image to the client. So it has nothing to do with
Openbox.
It has nothing to do with the Openbox or the window manager itself. i3 had nothing to do with that image. Really interesting, because we're going to switch back and forth here.
So is that what happens when you set desktop background and anything? It's using something like that?
I believe so, yes, with that. That's been my experience. But there's several other ways to set things, like using a desktop environment, which has their own built-in binaries to do this stuff like that. Honestly, Fed is kind of a favorite tool of mine. Okay, so let's go edit config files. First off, let's switch our VRXBT to a more readable terminal. So first, to start off with that, let's boot up UXterm. And so we'll be messing with this. One key binding you can do in with i3 is make it full screen. And it covers the whole screen there. So let's go find the config file.
Does it automatically tile the windows for you?
It does.
Okay.
Yes, I'll demonstrate that again. It's cool stuff. As you can see, they're all tiled like that, and I just moved that window up, so they're all like that.
Okay.
There's a lot of things you can do, but again, like, let's boot up GIMP just really quickly and see why this is a bad idea for something like GIMP.
Because you can get all your.
Actually, you know what? GIMP's not bad at. Well, GIMP's kind of started to play nice, but as you can see, it. Okay, so actually,
It's still
In the
floating.
i3 config file, in the default install, there are specific rules to make the toolbars not make them floating. If they weren't floating, you would have something like this. That's not a lot of room to draw your images. I guess you could resize
But you
it.
can see.
And then you can't see it all.
This is a bad example on when to use a tiling window manager.
I still have trouble with GIMP and floating. I don't understand.
Well, everyone has trouble with games, let's be honest.
Gives toolbars one of the easiest things.
Yeah, because they're totally isolated from the workspace.
Uh-huh.
That's the trouble.
So
Not connected.
it's kind of weird. A lot of applications on your modern system, they actually have their config files under home/.config, and from there, like we saw, there was Openbox and some other applications that you can find there. Not Firefox, but MPD has their stuff like there, and some other things. But i3 is a bit different. They actually have their configuration directories right under home, under .i3, and under there is just a file called config. You open config up, and as you can see, it's a lot more daunting to look at compared to Openbox. Openbox had a nice XML layout, but i3 is a bit more direct in its stuff. So i3 uses one of the dependencies that i3 requires is Pango, and you can render crazy fonts using Pango. I won't mess with that because messing with fonts is a nightmare. Like in i3 at least. Like I showed you in Openbox, messing with Openbox fonts is really nice because there's a nice UI for that. But with i3, there's no such thing. So you gotta mess with xfont select and fc-list, and a whole bunch of other crazy things.
Well, I remember using Terminal and I changed the font in the terminal and it would like put spaces between letters that it shouldn't have, and
Yeah, like
so I was like, no, I'm not gonna mess with the font anymore in this.
choosing your font is important too. We'll go back to my thing really quickly. I have a very small font called TUI, but it's not like it doesn't really use. It's not a true type font, and it's not some other things. Those are really big pain to get that set up on here. A good thing about i3 is that if you really screw up your font install, it will default to the fixed font. So at least you can see something. Okay, so down here, we're going to talk about keybinds really quick. I can see hold on. Let's go. Okay, so first here, when you actually start i3 for the first time, it'll actually go through it'll just ask one simple question. Do you want Alt to be your modifier or the super key? Now over in Openbox, like you saw that, Ali asked this question, like, how do I know super keys and stuff? Like in i3, they try to be more streamlined. One key means you're messing with the window manager, and so that first line there. Again, you gotta read the documentation, but mod 4 means super in i3. And so by setting that variable there, according to the config file, every time I call the mod variable, it'll mean super. Again, you gotta read the documentation for i3. There's also something I will stress: i3 documentation is not the best. I sometimes have trouble with it. Let's go down here. So bindsim is how you define key bindings in i3. And as you can see, the default one is to start a terminal.
i3 sensible terminal.
Sensible terminal, yeah. So that is like using some other config files. There's a built-in command to call whatever terminal is available to the system. You can change that. Let's change that. I mean, honestly, URXVT didn't look very sensible for what we were using. So currently it says if you press the super key and the return key at the same time, it'll execute everything after that. That exact thing is used for some things I won't go into. But
So it's almost easier to write than the XML files. It's just harder to
that's the
understand.
thing. The XML files, when you're writing key bindings or Openbox, it's a bit more convoluted, but the i3 is really easy to do. UX term. You can do another one.
So the pound sign in the text is describing.
Comments.
Oh yeah, these are comments in the config file for i3. I can't remember. I already forgot, but I mean, Openbox has their own way of commenting. That's another thing with certain window managers have different ways of commenting and structuring their file. Like Openbox uses XML, and this is something.
Is it just describing what it is, what it does?
Yeah. So in the default config file, they default these comments to show what these do.
Right. Okay.
So you can even add a comment down here. And again, these will not be parsed by anything. Alright, cool. So let's go through this really quick. The default kill command to close a window is all export does not work at all, which is something that
Joel wants to know why mod Z for the Matrix.
Mod M.
you know why? Because that's actually what it is on my default install. Actually, it's not Shift Z to be another thing. Which, by the way, it's not capital letters like Openbox. You have to type out the whole thing. The default. Okay, with the default config file, the default close window command is Super Shift Q. So for someone who types i3 and did not read documentation, they will have a hard time closing the terminal windows because there's no key binding. I mean, you could add your own key binding for Alt F4. It's just not a default one. Honestly,
how about Control D? Because to exit out rather than typing exit, you can do Control D. That should work because it's based on the.
It's the terminal.
It's the
bash,
terminal
isn't it?
itself. Is it a bash thing?
So I think it's a bash thing. So if bash exits, does it close the terminal window?
You can find out.
Yes, it will.
Okay. So you
Because
could
basically,
just,
okay,
so you
so
could just use Control D and you'd be fine.
your window manager, it
Or
will
just
spawn a
exit.
process in a window. So when you
Exit that process.
Yeah, when
Kills
you
the
open
window.
that terminal, the terminal will call a shell. When you exit that terminal, the shell will say, alright, I'm done. And the terminal's like, alright, I'm done. So, and then the window just completely closes, because that tells the window manager I'm done. And then it just stops. So there's some other default ones, like dmenu. I don't have dmenu installed. There's all these other things. You can change these. You can absolutely change them. But matter of fact is, if you learn these and you're communicating with other people online about certain issues, you have a medium to talk about them. All these, you can add more workspaces if you want to go past 10.
Can
Otherwise,
you modify this on like
So you do
GNOME
have
and stuff?
workspace.
Okay, so GNOME, as I explained earlier, GNOME is a desktop environment. So the drawback of using a desktop environment, I'm not writing desktop environments, but with desktop environments, the advantage of a desktop environment is that you have a window manager and applications working together nicely. And the GNOME desktop environment does not use i3 as a window manager.
Right.
And so because of that, I mean, once you switch, I don't know what window manager GNOME uses, but once you switch that out, it's not GNOME anymore.
I think it's Mutter.
Is it Mutter? Yeah, it's Mutter, right? Once you switch out Mutter is the window manager for GNOME. Once you switch that out, it's not GNOME anymore. Because those applications, those GNOME applications were specifically designed to work well with Mutter. I'm not saying they won't work well with i3. They probably won't work as well though.
Can you edit Mutter?
I don't know too much about them.
Source, I mean,
Well, I don't know too much about Mutter's window manager, the Mutter window manager, so I couldn't tell you. But honestly,
But you most likely won't be able to play around and customize it this much.
well, how do you mean?
I bet you.
I don't know.
Well,
I bet
I
to
mean,
some level you
changing
know.
commands and-
Yeah.
I don't know about Mutter, so I could not tell
GNOME
you.
is
Yeah, it's
based
it's
on
just
the
apps
decom
at that point.
stuff. No, I think GNOME itself actually uses an entire database called dconf that you have to interact with.
And GNOME Tweak Tool will edit a lot of that stuff.
There you go.
And
See,
otherwise-
at that point, that's something.
It's
there's
no longer
apps.
passing text files. It's actually
Yeah,
using a
they do.
binary
Okay,
based.
so that's just-
And that is
Database.
subject to some controversy.
A lot of people have issues with that.
just
Because
a graphic.
it's might as well. You could also rename it the Windows Registry and be the same.
Yeah, it's not quite
It's
the
not bad.
same. It's not that bad. But
Not
I
bad.
agree with you. It's getting. The reason they went with it is because there's so many different config
It's a
files.
lot of stuff.
On our servers, I have to change key bindings to make sure it works in all the different variants that someone can pick. I have to edit 5 different files,
That's a good point.
just like one key
Ben
binding.
brings up a good point with the desktop environment and stuff like that. There's software out there called Cheese. It's webcam software, but it is technically a GNOME application, so it works very well in the GNOME desktop environment. Because of that, there's several dependencies like dconf, which to install dconf, you need a whole bunch of other things, so it's all interconnected. So honestly, if you're going to go with the desktop environment, you're locked in on that. But if you start from the window manager and build up, you can be a lot more flexible. But you'll probably run into a lot more problems too. As you see, the rest of this file is just key bindings. If I remember
The
correctly.
Windows Manager approach is sort of like designing your own personal desktop environment.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, again, it is my guilty pleasure. I mean, I honestly love messing around with window managers. It is a hobby of mine. I've used i3 for I don't know how long now, but I've messed with Openbox and DWM a little. I've been trying to learn DWM. I'll get to that last. That's another window manager, but that's funny. There we go. Okay, so actually, after all these like key bindings, as you can see, there's this bracket. And that is something, yeah, I told you in Openbox, the defining thing about Openbox is the only way you interface with applications is right-click on the desktop, you get a menu. In i3, it's all key bindings. But in addition, i3 also has a built-in panel on the bottom, where you can move that on. And you call this bar block, and then there's a status command. So the status command argument is something that updates over and
Can you specify that interval?
like, how do I say that? Okay, so you have your bar block, and then status command says, all right, every second, okay, so execute this command. That's all it is, okay? So i3 status specifically updates the bar with information. You know what, can I get me?
From where?
Is
Can you just give me
i3
information?
status? Is there a config file for that to say what you can
There is.
update?
In fact, I have not messed with it on this fresh i3 install, so I'm going to go back to my desktop and look at that. Crap. Didn't mean to do that.
Wrong one.
Okay, so it's under the home directory. Actually, you know what? I don't think I used this. Okay, so i3 status is a built-in command, that comes with i3 that basically gives you nice information that will update every second on here. But that's all. I mean, if you want to customize stuff, that's a lot more work. Because see this thing right here? This is actually a connection to my music server, or like my music player, and i3 status doesn't have that built in. But if you write your own script to do it, you can make whatever you want output down here.
So it's a little bit like Conky, except Conky's on the right side of,
It is a lot like
the
Conky,
open box.
except it is a lot more convoluted to get things working. Let me show you what I did.
You're not painting i3 in a great light here, mate.
I am not. I'm saying there are several different ways to do this. Why do I still have this?
Stop asking him questions that make you have to say something.
Okay, so as you can see, instead of having the i3 thing, I have this command here. And it just executes the script that outputs the standard, all these concatenated things. It's not pretty, I know. Anyway. So it basically just executes the script.
But what's cool is you can do that.
You can do
have
that.
the ability to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. You could do another thing.
Yes.
Although you can do that kind of
Which is
stuff.
interesting, because I said in Openbox, if you want your own panel, you gotta install some separate software, but i3 has support for its own kind of stuff, and interface with that, you would do something like that. And this is my pride and joy, because I made it so that it can detect when my music player is playing. It's not gonna play anything, but it doesn't see it down there, it just updates and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So, that took a lot of work.
That's pretty cool.
That was a whole afternoon figuring that out. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do with that.
I see what the pause means now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just things pause.
Alec, you seem, and this is slightly off, but
Go ahead.
you seem to really be getting into i3 and writing all this stuff. Can you outsource this and start sharing this with people like people do with Conky scripts? They can.
It's funny you say
upload
that
Conky
because
scripts.
while I haven't done it, I do plan on it. A lot of things programmers do, from what I understand, they have under the code repository online, they have a folder called their dot files, or a repository called dot files, and all that is their configuration files, including crazy things like that. Actually, I really should upload that because no one else has something like
Yeah,
no one else online has something like that. So that's the magic of. That's one of the things with i3. You can do colors, of course, down here, but again, this is all Greek unless you read documentation on that kind of stuff. I don't know, I feel like it missed something on i3.
So just to double check, i3 also does workspaces as well as tiling, so you
Yes.
can jump back and forth between different sets of tiles.
Yes, and as it's up there, all those bind sims, there's already default commands for all those. So you want me to show a demonstration of these workspaces. So as we saw up here, actually right here, by default it defines 10 workspaces. As you can see, this isn't as friendly to configure as Openbox is, but you can do it. So there's 10 default ones. I don't stray from that. Let's go to workspace 7 and open up a terminal and open up C Matrix. Oh, that's my music player. I don't want to do that. Let's keep that open. Oops, I closed it. Oh, you know what? It actually crashed. Like C Matrix is kind of funny because the window gets too small. It actually segfaults. It's like it was written in 2003. Anyway, I have to do this.
No one knows it.
Let's open up Firefox too.
So is that an application or?
Yeah. Okay. So I have add a key binding for the terminal, key binding for Firefox, and a key binding to open up my music player.
What music player do you use?
I use something called NCMP, CPP, and I don't know what this stands for, but this is a client to something called MPD, which is called the Music Player Daemon. Like the X server and the window manager, this is a client and this is a server. So basically, in order to use this, I have to have MPT running. So yeah, I like if you're into that kind of stuff.
Some people have done entire house installations with multiple clients talking to an MPD,
Well, MPT is pretty flexible.
where you can just have different computers all talking at the same
Well, for
time.
example, MPD has a built-in IceCast streaming output. So if you want to start your own internet radio station, MPD can easily facilitate
I
that.
like how the player looks like your terminal stuff.
It is. That is honestly, I'm a big fan of NCurse, like the NCurse's applications like this. In fact, even my IRC client is ERC, which runs in terminal as well. So a whole bunch of crazy stuff like that. What were you doing? We got sidetracked.
I was going to ask a
moving things
question.
around.
You were talking about workspaces,
Uh-huh.
and in those key bindings, it has workspaces, and then it has something about moving containers in workspaces. What's a container?
Did you see that in the config file?
Yeah, that config
Go
file
back.
you were at. Jump back to the config file. Here, you've got switch to workspace, and then you've got move focused
Okay.
container to
Oops,
workspace.
I went too far.
What's
So a container is what they call a window.
okay?
Yes. Well,
So That's like
Yeah,
moving
I think
windows
so.
Space to space.
Hold on. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, so container is just a window.
Okay.
So yeah, again, so documentation stuff. Like I said, I don't mean to rat on I3 too much, but it's documentation's not that good.
Have you thought about being one of the guys who contributes
Right,
and
I
writes some
probably should.
of the documentation for us?
Someone who plays around with this so much probably
Yeah.
should, huh?
Good credit on the resume.
We have 25 more minutes, so I want to talk about other. Do you think we should cover compositors, Chase? You want to talk about?
Go for it.
Let's do it. Okay, so a window manager manages the windows, but a composite. If you want the windows to like look a certain way, use something called a compositing manager. And with compositing managers, you can set things like transparency. So as you can see, I have this crazy transparency thing going on. Let's go back to our newer install here.
So you're talking about things like comps and all the compits and all that kind of stuff.
Comp right. I use, on my computer, I use something called Compton.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah. And by default, when you execute Compton, it makes all windows transparent in your window manager. But when you kill it, it's not transparent anymore. Let's fork it to the back. Well, we'll keep it here. Put in a little window up here so we can mess with it. So window managers, okay, so compositing managers set stuff like how your windows look. Remember back in Openbox when I mentioned something that window manager class thing? That tag that I said not to worry about because it's for complicated stuff. This is the kind of complicated stuff I'm talking about. If you want certain windows to look a certain way or behave a certain way when they're executed, you would use something like you would use the window manager class for that. For example, if I wanted transparent terminals, but only terminals be transparent, I would use that window manager class and use Compton to mess with it. So let's see here. We can set a shadow. So let's set a shadow with our thing here. Oh, I guess I don't know what I'm doing here.
Maybe you have to do 1.0.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't mess around with it too much, but I don't know, that was short-lived. Basically, in addition to window managers, if you wanted to do fancy stuff with how your windows look, like add shadows or opacity or stuff like that, you would use something like a compositing manager. Compton is one of them, Compbase is another. I'm trying to think of another one here.
Does that also do like the color of the bar up there? And
No, that has to do with your window manager.
Oh, okay.
Because that's part of the window.
Okay.
I don't know. If you want to do more fancy stuff, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't go into that too much since today's topic really is just window.
Are you looking for something to spin out for another 15 minutes or so?
I was thinking we go cover DWM.
Well, because I've got one question, but
Okay.
I can wait until the end.
Well, go ahead.
If someone was happy with Openbox, has used Openbox, but wanted to be able to shift back and forth to start learning i3, what's the simplest way of being able to set it up so you've got both running simultaneously and you can, using a key binding or have you jump back and forth? Because you've been jumping back and forth quite a bit between the two.
Good point. Like I said earlier.
How would you set that up?
No, that is a great question. Remember, we all understand how the X server system works. You have your server, and you have clients here. Connect to that. So there's two clients running on one machine, right? It's one machine. Okay, so how these window managers spawn process? I don't know how to explain it in depth, But do you guys know what a TTY is? Should I explain that really quick? Okay, so the switch between TTYs on a standard machine with a keyboard, you would use Control, Alt, and then F1 through F6. Can you increase how many?
No, they're hard to build.
Yeah, the whole.
You can recompile your kernel half more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta do that, right?
Okay.
Okay, well, with your TTYs,
And F7 is your X.
hmm?
And F7 is going into your X.
Right, yes. So when you, okay, so if you have a TTY open on
It
maybe,
depends on where X got started.
No,
What terminology you use.
so if you're on TTY1 and you wanna execute I3 first, that goes over to your TTY7 window. And to access that, you do Control Alt F7. Right? And if you had a TTY2 open and you did Openbox, executed that, that would go to TTY8.
Oh. Okay.
I actually just figured this out today. It was pretty interesting. I was going to go with VMs, but when I figured out you could do stuff like that, like it was pretty cool. So I'm not sure how you would write the script, but you could have it unlock. Well, I guess you could have a fork, right? Yeah, you would have a fork. In your bash RC file. Actually, no, in your xinit RC file, because let's go back over here. Let's go to Openbox. Sick of agree. Oh, I still have a whole bunch of these. So let's open up a terminal and go look at our config files here. Bash RC. So when you log into a TTY, like when it gives you your login prompt, after you execute that, it runs bash RC. In a normal bash RC file on your computer, let's go back to mine. Uh-oh, now we're able to. I feel like I did something wrong here.
I don't think that's a real.
A lot of typos today.
There you
Oh, okay. So bash profile is another way to do it. So it'll run bash RC and bash profile. I don't know which order, but basically in bash profile you have startx. Start your X server. And I had to explain startx executes this script. So I've been messing around with it today. So what you can do normally, as you can see, I had DWM right here. What you could do is basically when you start your TTY up, it with bash RC it sets all your config files, executes your window manager, but doesn't fork from it. Meaning if I switch back to TTY1, it's actually still running here. And if I did Control C, I don't want to do that.
It's gonna kill it.
It would kill my window manager on TTY7. So I could do then. You know what? Let's try that really quick. Let's kill. Yeah, let's kill the one on let's kill our fresh Openbox install and our fresh i3 install. And well, let's just do these two because that's all they can concern with. So now we're in a TTY. So you guys know that when I log in a TTY, like it'll just show up like that, right? Okay, so then normally it would go through bash profile and bash RC to startx and then open the window manager. If you want a graphical, if you want this to be graphical, your login, what's the term for that? There's a specific kind of software for that.
It's a login manager.
A login manager, right? I'm not messing with those today.
That's another whole.
But something like this. Theoretically, we should be able to edit our oops. What are we doing here?
But login managers are typically desktop managers.
Okay, so let's log in. And edit RxN and RZ. So you can see we have our background here. But instead of just executing and hanging, why don't we fork it? Let's see what happens.
So
I've actually never tried
one of
this.
them both in the background, is it?
Right. So to do this, theoretically on TTY8 and TTY9, both is just on startup. We're gonna try this. And that is not good.
Have I broken your computer?
So I guess that didn't work. Honestly, Ben, I don't know how to. I'm sure there's a way messing with Xn and RC.
Yeah.
Probably not how I did it. I'm guessing you have to have some kind of screen open. But you could do that. You can have it. You could have your two clients execute on multiple.
If you didn't
sessions.
care about having it on startup, you could do start X and then have an alternate config file for the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked in that. Okay, so here's the funny thing about StartX. It takes no arguments.
Huh.
So
So you have to manually change it and then start it up.
yeah, so StartX, you can't tell it to look at a specific config file. Really bugs me. It will only check these places. If you wanted to, you can make your custom bash file to like load and swap files. Like you can swap your home directory with a home file with something else. So with that, it could be very easy just to use StartX to boot a different thing. So yeah, you absolutely could.
In your script, could you set an environment variable then? Like
Right, that
if
already
environment
is.
variable
It is, it already
equals.
is.
Oh, is it?
So then just overwrite that environment variable.
Oh, which one?
Well, in your start X, XNet RC, you could load up some logic in the script file to check if an environment variable is set to something.
I'm not good. I'm not
And
good with
then-
environment variable.
And then, you know, if it's like, if environment variable equals I3, load I3. If it,
You could. You actually could. No, you actually could do that, couldn't you? Yeah,
and you just
yeah.
gotta set your environment variable when you run start X.
Right. Okay.
So you've got to basically send a export on the environment
Right.
variable
Or
in
you
your
start
bash
with
RC
StartX.
to start it. You still may not be able to do it.
In theory.
You still may not be able to do it concurrently.
Right, you'd probably have to open it in terminal UI.
Now, I say you can boot from TTY, but why can't you boot StartX from your already existing window manager? I have my default i3 thing open, right?
Oh yeah, so
And we're running this as
This
Alex.
could be really bad.
So let's edit. Let's exit. Let's edit the RC file. Delete it. Let's have it execute Openbox just for this once. And if we had like some way to swap scripts, like I explained, this would be like Openbox. We do StartX. TTY8 we have Openbox running, and TTY7 we still have the original one.
But if you close that shell,
If you close this,
But if you
then
ran
I
it,
suddenly can't access.
but if you ran it in the background,
I could if I ran into the well, let's see. I
Can you
mean,
run it in the
fork,
background?
it didn't like it when I forked it. Let's see what happens. And actually, I think it likes that.
Whoa.
What do you
so
know?
you could just write a secondary script that runs within
You're within your window.
within your first window manager to start up the second window
It's
manager.
really brave. You can probably.
chain load.
Well, let's do
You'll get to know by
Okay.
number 4.
Of all of the different window managers, so you have a very minimalistic one that you
There
can
you
into
go.
it, and you pick which one that you want. It's a really good idea.
See 4 times.
They will.
I think I had a DWM here.
Yeah, I sidetracked you a bit. You wanted
Oh,
to.
no, that's fine. Let's edit XNRC. Have it execute DWM. And then over in TTY9, we have DWM running. It's just a different window manager. And so if I kill this one back here, then those TTYs
Go back to just.
are still running. What happened?
Oh wow.
Oh wait, it's not. Okay.
It's
Did
oh,
it
it was
work?
working on it.
No, it wasn't.
It seems
Oh,
to.
you
Well, it
know
seems
what?
to be
I
trying.
think it's trying, but it's failing. So in other words, it did something really bad.
I'm afraid of it.
Yeah.
So I think some people are hyping DWM a bit. So I explained i3 and Openbox a little bit. So there are several window managers out there. So DWM is special because in order to set your configuration files, you have to edit the source code, the C source code, right? You have to edit the C source code and put in your terminal, your like cache bar colors or whatever, recompile it, and then re-execute it.
What's the reasoning behind that? Because they couldn't be bothered to write config files?
It's because-
Or because it's really high speed.
Well,
They
yeah,
wanna
that's
ensure
the
the
issue.
updates
Okay,
always
that's the
break.
thing. DWM is written by the Suckless team, and the Suckless software organization, whatever they call themselves, their whole design philosophy is to be very Unix philosophy-wise, which means make everything as fast as possible. These are the same guys who wrote an IRC client, 500 lines,
What?
called.
500 lines.
For an IRC client.
And this is off topic, but I like talking about this. They wrote an IRC client called II, and when you execute it, it just runs, and errors are output to standard out. So, based on whatever, it actually is a text config file. No, I got the source code for this, but I think you do. I don't remember. But basically, with II, what it does is that whatever it makes a directory, maybe called IRC, and there's folders for each network. Give me another IRC network.
QuakeNet.
QuakeNet, sure. So I'll make two folders called FreeNode and QuakeNet. And under there, there's channels. And then under these is another folder. There's a pipe to input into that channel using like a pipe, like a Unix pipe. You can output text into it, and then a log file to read whatever's out of that channel.
So you're going to use tail to.
Yes, you would use tail and stuff like that.
To actually talk to the
You could
IRC
probably
client.
write a bash IRC bot using II. Point is, what I'm trying to explain is that the Suckless software organization does crazy stuff like that to make their software run really fast, and DWM is their window manager to exemplify that.
Glad someone's good.
Yeah.
That would actually be really useful.
And
in the
so,
case of a bot.
seeing that, I mean, there are various different philosophies on what a window manager should be like. And so really, I mean, if you're, I mean, honestly, for the modern, most users, just picking any desktop environment should be fine for you. But if you ever want to go the extra mile, you start at the window manager, and from there, there's so many possibilities.
Can we look at DWM? Have you got it running?
You want? Sure, let's do that quick. Did I kill it? Let's kill this first. Okay. I guess you have to kill in tandem. Alright, so I guess I have a StartX. I have DWM over here. So actually, I don't know DWM very well, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to open this terminal. I can't right click. So
You just gotta compile it in.
yeah, let's go look. Let's go look at the source code, guys.
Every click and keystroke you have to compile and
What is it? Are those numbers mean
I
anything?
don't know. All right, so I actually just put the folder under here. Okay, so here's the C header file. You gotta edit. Let's go again. Okay. Well, as you can see, I failed to load the TUI font. I learned that in order to pick whatever font you want, you use a program called Xfont Select. And see here, what font do we like? Oh, you know, this is where I found the Wingdings one. Somewhere.
It's not too windy.
So, a symbol. Sure, standard symbols. 1. Okay, let's do that one. Because this is already brief to me as it is. Does that have spaces? Let's look again. Yeah, it has spaces. Maybe this will work. If it doesn't work, well, it'll segfault maybe. I don't know. So again, you gotta read documentation for this kind of stuff.
There's also a dash in the picture.
So as you can see, this character array is the workspaces.
The numbers we saw earlier.
That's the
So rules. Remember that window manager class tag I talked about in XML? I think this is DWM's implementation of that. Except it's just another array.
They marked GIMP as a floating one. That's interesting.
Yeah, they did. That is interesting. So if I execute GIMP,
It's floating is true.
should do it.
Oh, so it's a tiling manager, but
Well, yeah, it's primarily a tiling manager. Yes.
but you can specify.
They can support them. Like I said, most modern window managers can flip between the two somehow. Looks like they have some C comments. That's helpful. Oh, okay. I can't remember the command. Oh well. So tiling, floating, monocle. What's that? I don't know how to do that. Okay, maybe we'll find out. Okay, so mod key.
Is monocle maybe just one window at a time, full screen?
Maybe. We could look. We're gonna figure out how to execute something first. That would be very useful. Oh god.
Mod key.
So okay, mod key. I don't
Kill-
what's
kill
the default
command.
mod key? I'm trying to figure that out here. Mod 1. I think that's alt. Okay.
X keyboard.
There we go.
X keyboard.
Oh, it doesn't look very well. Gosh, I don't know what I'm doing here. Well, here's a quick command. Okay, so maybe Alt-Shift-Q means it quits. Okay. So just Alt-1 would switch between workspaces.
What is like alt?
Okay, so it looks like Alt-Return should spawn our terminal. So why don't we try that? Did we change anything? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we set up the font.
Okay, so we gotta make the file.
Hopefully.
And those are other things. Everything compiled.
Is that fast enough? Impressive.
And
Oh wow. So
what changed? I don't know how to
Your
change.
font changed.
Okay.
Try that alt.
Alt enter. Oh, I guess it doesn't work.
How about alt 1 and 2 to see if you change.
Oh.
Yeah.
That
You're
does.
changing your. Oh yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's exit this. Oh, so Alt-Shift-Q did exit the X server. Okay. Terminal command. Let's go back up to there, huh? UX terminal. Okay, so it should execute. Shouldn't be an issue there. Looks like null means like arguments and stuff. So let's do that again. Good.
Alt shift.
Can you open up?
Oh, it is all shift enter. Wow, right. Okay. So as you can see, we figured out how to boot a terminal. What's that?
You get to terminal.
Let's try again.
Oof. There we go.
Um.
It's definitely floating.
Oh God.
But it's too big.
It's
That
floating, but
is
it's not
exactly-
handling. Handling
Please.
wrong.
Oh, how do you close the window? Oh, I'll shift Q. Oh, no.
Hold it.
No,
Hold Shift Q. That's not a very good keyboard command for just killing your entire session.
well, there are several window managers out there.
You know where this could be cool is like some type of kiosk or pod
Kiosk,
type
for
of
sure.
thing where
Yeah.
you don't want your end user ever to be able to change the window manager.
Or
setting.
closing anything, really. Yeah, you could edit out all other
Right,
shortcuts.
and then you compile it and you don't give that system a compiler.
Yeah.
And they can't jack anything up,
To it.
or the source files. So you just put the binary out on your device or whatever.
It would be against
So it's the
Yeah.
ultimate kill system.
It sounded silly at first, but
Yeah. Well,
But
you know,
it
once it's a
helps.
touchscreen, then
right.
poke it and that's all we can do.
Well, there are several choices for window managers out there. I encourage you guys to at least look at one window manager in your lifetime that you might latch on to. That effectively ends my talk. So,
Well done.
unless you guys have questions,
I always have a question.
oh, go ahead.
Can Openbox do tiling? Because you said
It's funny you say that. I say it most, didn't I? I don't know. I think it's the most modern. I don't think with Openbox is any tiling whatsoever.
no tile.
I don't think so. No, they don't. Not at all. So that's exclusively floating. But again, it is very easy for anyone to latch onto that kind of stuff that they can break from Windows. Very friendly. Now, when you use those graphic user interface tools I told you, like Go Become Big, I'm pretty sure there's other software out there for setting keybinds. I just haven't looked into it. Any other questions about window managers? It is a vast subject.
I'm gonna look at i3.
All right,
Sounds like
go
fun.
for it. i3 is really good. If you have multiple monitors set up, it is very fun. So, yeah. Openbox does some things with monitors. I don't know. I'm gonna shut down this.